Well, good morning, welcome back to the channel. I've travelled over the border today and I'm out in the real world to take on my first road race of the season. A little bit earlier than expected. This is the Syco-list. Let's get on with it. So today's event's been put on by Cadence Cycling over in Wales. The race HQ's at 3 o'clock, so no puns there. First road race of the season, so I crossed over the bridge for this one. It's a 9 laps of a 4-mile circuit out on the roads here. Just been out and done a bit of a recon. It's not a bad little circuit. The roads are in pretty good condition, so hopefully stay in the bunch. It's quite a nasty headwind on part of the course, but hopefully we can sit in the pack and get away from that. But let's get on with it and see how we get on. So here we are joining the race footage, about a lap and a half into this course. The first epic fail for me was forgetting to push the record button on the GoPro at the start of the race. So we had a neutralised start out, which did a lead on to the course at this point here, which then let us go. And to be honest, the start of this race was exactly like a Zwift race. It was full throttle as soon as that flag was dropped, and we battled down this straight here with a tailwind. So now we're probably a lap and a half in at the moment. I'm getting back into road racing. Obviously, first race of the season. I've not done any crits or anything like that. I've predominantly been indoor training, and I've only ridden outdoors probably about 3 times this year. So getting comfortable back in the wheels, and realised that my position here, I'm sat quite a long way back in the pack, which is not really where I wanted to be. So I start to try and use the white line to try and move down a few places. I know in a little while, after doing a 2-lap recon of the course, that just down here in a little while there is a little rise where we seem to ease off the pace and it just closes up a little bit. So I'm not busting the gut to get back across, because I know it will ease shortly and I'll be back across, but making the most of the tailwind down this section before we get down to what I class as a bit of a tricky section on the course, as we take a left hand turn at a roundabout and go through a village. So number 23 there, as you can see, is being a little bit cheeky, showing a bit of rear. Obviously he's had a crash at some point and torn his lycra. Hopefully not during this race, but yeah, sorry about that. I won't blank it out, I'll leave it there for good content. But as you can see, it's a road race, 9 laps, 8 laps after the first lead-in lap, about 42 miles in total. My first epic fail was not starting the GoPro, like I said at the beginning, but as you can see, just getting comfortable back in the pack, sitting in where I need to. Just trying to get myself back in and ease myself in. I've done a lot of Zwift racing and training over the winter, and I'm quite happy with where my power figures are. But looking at this course on the recon before it, there was a few places where I knew that it would ease and settle a little bit. So the pace was pretty rapid for the first few laps, but I'd sat a little bit too far back and I was conscious of that. So I try and make a move just to move back up. My teammate, you can see over there on the left hand side of the screen, Will, has been sat probably where I needed to be sat for most of this, but I'm happy that I'm in the group. I'm moving around nicely in the wheels, I'm not letting massive gaps happen in front of me, and I'm staying in contact. There's been a few efforts, people trying to get off the front, but nothing's really got away, and the actual peloton is really sticking together and really working hard. This is a Cat 3-4 race, classed as the Brecon early season lung opener. Not a course that I've ridden before, so it's quite nice to do something different. I wasn't planning to be racing until about April this year, after my trip to Tenerife, but Will wanted to come and do this race, and as a road captain for League RT this season, I thought I'd come along and support him in his first road race. So I just jumped in. A few people that are recognised here that I've raced with or against at sort of Castle Combe and Thruxton over the last few years, but this is the point where I say we're going to head down into a roundabout now, which is a left-hand bend. But on the first lap I noticed a lot of people really eased and just didn't take the right line through here, and it was causing quite a sort of ripple effect back through the peloton where everyone was easing and slowing. But it's a left-hand bend off of a roundabout into a narrower road through a village with some traffic islands. Clearly it's just one to be mindful of. I've got the right line here, I've managed to stay on the power and take it quite well, knowing that the traffic islands sort of pinch here in a couple of places, and then we have a nice descent in through the village. I'm sort of happy where I am, but in a little while as we come through this village there's another left hand turn which is a little bit tighter back on yourself, and that's where the difficulty's been, is like you're full gas out of that corner, and by the time you either get back onto the group or the group eases, you're into a sort of a dragging climb really, which the last two times we've been up it they've really sort of pushed the power on that one. So I'm sat here quite happy, sort of a few people moving past me on the outside, but again happy with my position and knowing that the wind is at this time left to right. Probably should have been sat out on the white line, but I know down here we're quite sheltered and we're going to take the left hand bend, so I wanted to be on this side of the road to have a better turn in on that left hand corner. There was quite a few teams out in numbers today. The Ajax team, there was about 9 riders for them. Reflex had 4 or 5 riders as well, and yeah, so there was quite a few people that were playing tactics up the front. A couple of the Ajax riders were sort of on and off moves. This is that left hand bend I said to you about. It sort of turned into it. The lad in front had a bit of a wobble which took me a little bit off the pedals, but here I didn't go full gas to close the gap because I knew it was going to ease just down the road here, and then we're going to settle into this like dragging climb, but then eventually about halfway up it everyone just gets out of the saddle and goes for it and attacks over the top of it just to get over the top of it to the flat part. But again, happy with my positioning, in the wheels where I needed to be, moving around freely. Ideally here I wanted to be out on the white line, but this is a headwind section that we've come into now, and it was quite a brutal headwind when I did the initial recon ride out before as a warm-up. So this headwind, it was nice to be sat in the pack, but you just see that I'm just moving more out to that white line, because up here in a minute when we go up this climb I want to get out to the white line and I want to pass and try and get another 10 places down just to be nearer to the front so that I can actually start to get more involved in the race, which was what my plan was. So there's a few people there. The FTP lad, he's gone down the outside and that's exactly what I want to do, but at the moment I just haven't got the space to move to get out there. I'm waiting for this climb to come and then thinking I'll do it over the top of the climb. So as you can see, pace is picked up, everyone's out their saddles, starting to pick up the pace over the top of this, and this is going to take us back up to the start finish line and another lap completed. But as you can see, everyone's out the saddles pushing over the top of this. It will ease in a minute as we settle over the start finish line before we take another descent down towards the left hand bend, which is where this video started. But I've finally got out to the white line. I'm conscious that I don't want to go too much too early because of the headwind. Been a little bit pushed out of place there, trying to obviously dodge the cat's eyes. And when I realised no one's going to let me back in, I've just decided to go down the outside, make up the spaces I wanted to move, and be near the front, which is what my intention was. And when I get here, I want to then try and sit back in the wheels and try and not get involved with that headwind, which is quite brutal this time. So I'm sat there nicely, and eventually I do manage to get back into the wheels. My teammates still sat around me as well. Will, he's just over to the left hand side of the screen in a little while. I think he comes through. There he is, league rider there, just going through. And then the pace picks up again as another attacker goes. Just crossed the start finish line, that attack goes. I'm quite happy that I'm tucked in, sheltered from the headwind. But what I'm thinking here is that I need to get to the next left hand bend near the front, because I want to take it at full pace. I don't want to be easing off or braking further back in the group. So what I'm planning to do is attack again in a minute and move down the outside, and hopefully get to that junction sort of in the top 10 riders, so that we can actually take the corner at a better pace, because the last few times we've been round it's been poorly taken and everyone's losing momentum and braking and losing their speed through it. So I want to try and carry my speed through the corner. Again, well positioned, I'm near that white line where I want to be, and moving freely in the pack, which is quite nice for my first race. My teammate Will there on the left hand side, he's chased that down, now just sitting back in to get a breather, but it's still pretty full on. Like I say, the Ajax riders were predominantly attack after attack. Reflex were getting involved as well, and they just continued to roll over the top of each other with some of these attacks. In a minute when we get to this junction, the left hand turn, you see that I start to move up now. The headwind's sort of across us now, it's coming right to left on the screen, and I'm happy to move down the outside here and get to that junction so I can take it at a decent pace. As you can see, the escort riders have gone down the outside. Will's moved back down the left hand side as well, and again another attack goes. And this is my thought now, they're making the attack because they want to get to that junction like I do. They want to get there to be able to take the junction at a decent pace. So I followed it, probably about 6th wheel here. You see that I've just come off the gas a little bit, ready for this, and we lean into it and take the corner better this time, and then back on it. I've not chased down, I've let a gap go. I've got another Ajax rider on my shoulder who's coming through here, and I let these go purely because I know that once we get down here in a little while, it eases again before we go into another little kicker. And exactly that, I've not burnt a match, I've not chased that down. I've probably let too many riders in front of me, but as we come down through here, again, I'm happy with my positioning. I'm near that white line, and yet again another attack goes. And I think it's around this point that I'm following it. Will's just come through here, so I've sat on his wheel. And it's along this road, some point I have an absolute nightmare. Not sure exactly where it happened. I know when I get to the climb I'm feeling it, but yeah, my race comes to a rapid end shortly, as you're about to see the aftermath of it. I'm doing well, happy with my performance. My power figures were ideal, they were not to the higher end of my limits, so I knew that I had plenty of room, plenty of years left to go as well. In a minute we start a little climb up, and I'm not sure what's caused it, but I sort of follow this move, and when we get to, I think it's the brow of the hill in a minute, my seat post has gradually been dropping, and the fronts of my legs have started to burn, and I can't comfortably sit in my saddle anymore because my seat post has dropped about 2.5 inches, and it's just become unbearable. The pain through the front of my legs from being incorrectly seated on the saddle because I'm 2.5 inches lower than where I should be. It's just started to put all the pressure on the fronts of my legs. I close the gap here as it eases, but in a minute as we head down towards that roundabout again, I realise that I'm just not going to be able to continue, because I'm not going to be able to do the next 20 odd miles out of the saddle, and I'm not comfortable seated because the fronts of my legs are literally just burning from the effort that I'm putting in. As you can see, people start to come past me here, which I was happy with, didn't have an issue with that. But as we head down to this roundabout, I just call it a day. You'll see in a minute that I just literally just sit up, I take a drink of a bottle, and then just decide to myself I can't continue, purely because the pain that's going through the fronts of my legs from being sort of totally out of position on the bike after a bike fit and everything. And it's one thing that I didn't check on the bike, and is a little bit of my own fault, because the Scott Foil RC10 that I rode today, that I've reviewed on the channel, is a phenomenal bike. I've only ridden it twice this week out on the road, and that's all I've ridden it, so it's only done sort of 40 miles. And obviously the seat post dropping today is just my own issue really, and the fact that yes, I should have checked it. It's been fine the last 2 rides, but these little niggly things and teething issues you get with new bikes, you find by riding them, and I've just clearly not done enough miles out on the road on it to sort of solve some of these issues. But I'm staying with the group here, and this is the point where I have my drink, drop my water bottle as well to the floor, just not being able to put it back in the bottle cage. I think I was a little bit annoyed, and you can see that I've just let them go now, and I know that my race is over. My teammate Will come past me in a minute. I have a little word to him to say my seat post has dropped. I think he was caught having a jow, he said. So yeah, the roundabout here, and then I just move over to the left hand side of the road, and my race, the epic fail has happened. So the epic fail of not starting the video initially, and then the epic fail of my seat post dropping and ending my first road race of the season. Well, that wasn't the plan. That's a DNF for me, out on course, just getting into it, 3 laps in, and the saddle's dropped, well, the actual seat post has dropped on the bike, just making it unbearable for me to ride any longer. Moved to the front, I was sat in about the top 10, and yeah, literally the saddle's dropped down, and not a lot I can do about it, so I've just rolled back to HQ now. Going to try and put the saddle up and just go and have a bit of a cool down. Driven 2.5 hours out to Wales, and yeah, raced about 12 miles. Not for me today. Now time to get myself ready and back in the saddle to go back onto Zwift on Wednesday for the dirt racing series, and then head out to Tenerife on Friday. Can't wait.